Hel- Hello, and welcome to Agile Adventures with Brian Levy and Jacob Shore. How's it going, Brian?
Today is a good day. My daughter's advanced in the soccer tournament, so pretty soon we'll be fighting for glory.
Uh-huh. I've noticed that recently the air quality is not a factor.
Well, you know what? I think the air quality is getting worse and worse, and because it's getting bad, I've decided not to talk about it that much. It makes
Oh,
me
okay.
sad.
We're Americans, right? That's the thing. When someone asks how's it going, it always has to be positive.
Exactly. We can't really. Yeah. It's the understood thing that asking how things are going is a polite way of saying hi, but you're not really supposed to tell people how you're doing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah,
That
that's
would be considered rude.
yes, the American way. Okay, cool. So, you had plans for this week's episode.
Yeah, well, you know what? We I've heard of an incident with a team where we had someone go on vacation and the team was left in this state where the backlog wasn't groomed, and because of that, the team kind of you know went to a standstill almost. So
When
I
I
thought that
start
would be a
ed-
good thing to talk about.
when I start editing this, I have to have put like a womp 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 or womp womp womp. You know.
But you'd be surprised at how common this problem is amongst agile teams.
Yes, yes. So so yeah, so we the names have been changed to protect the guilty.
That's right. Yeah.
And whatever, just not to get me in hot water. Uh, you know. But yes. So yeah, so someone went on vacation. Uh I feel like whenever people go on vacation, I mean, basically whenever I or someone else goes on vacation, I feel like things go south quickly.
But this let me explain kind of how this happens. Within Scrum, we all have different responsibilities for making different decisions. And I think that people sometimes forget that Scrum is about decision making rights. And if you keep that in mind, when you go on vacation, really what you want to do is give someone else the right to make those decisions. Right. So you'd have kind of a replacement. But often I think we associate ourselves with the role. And we go on vacation. It's like, well, no one can do this but me. And it's like, well, no, other people can make decisions.
Hmm.
You're not the only one.
Well, then why do we have you if someone else can make the decision?
Well, so here's the thing. Like and I'll use it my own personal life as an analogy. Um, you know, I firmly believe that my wife is the best person to actually take care of, be the mother for my daughter. But if she were to die, I think that my daughter could be raised and be a productive adult by somebody else, right? Helping out. So it's just that it's when you give decision making rights to someone else, it's not that someone else can't make a decision. We just think that the person who initially had the role
Well,
will be the
that's
best person to make decisions now.
well, that went dark quickly.
Yeah, my wife gets hit by a bus or something. I'll probably be investigated because of this podcast, right?
I mean, now, if not before, now you will. Let's not give him any ideas.
But yeah, the again, if you think about it in terms of decision making rights, which again, that's what it's for. Um, Other people can make decisions. The decisions that you make may be better, but other people can make adequate decisions in your absence.
She'd probably get run if it were to happen, or she'd probably get run over by a shopping cart in the middle of in the aisles.
Yeah, for a poison, I'm definitely in trouble, right?
Yes.
But yeah,
So you have an alibi. It's like I never go in down the aisles. I only go around the circumference.
on the outskirts. That's right. That's where all the healthy stuff is on the outskirts.
Yes. Yeah. I
But
don't
yeah,
know what she was doing there either. I guess you know.
but yeah, when you think about it in terms of decision making rights, the person that initially makes, usually makes the decision, they may be the best person. But again, if you have a situation like vacation or a family emergency or anything where that person's out of the office, it's we have to actually think about, can the decisions wait till that person returns? But the ones that can't, they need to be delegated to somebody else, and the team should agree on who's going to make those decisions in the absence of that normal person. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What
So
do you
yes,
think?
I agree. So that wasn't done. Okay. I mean, that pretty much wraps up the episode.
Well, I think that there's a big reason why it wasn't done. I think
Uh-huh.
that sometimes the Scrum team is a team, and although you have roles, again, it's all about making decisions, and the roles can switch as necessary. The team needs to work
Okay.
it out.
So part of it was that well, Small Tiger, he went on a vacation to Hawaii, and then he was back for like one day. Well, I mean, and then he had to take care of his ailing wife.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though. Anyone normally the rule that I go by for my teams is that if you're out or it's going to be out, so it's a planned outage,
Yeah.
then if you know in advance, so part of your preparation should be to name the person that you think should take over your decision making. So it's your responsibility. Now, and if it's an emergency situation, so it wasn't planned, then my normal rules for a team are that the team needs to recognize, hey, this role was out, the role that made these decisions. So you all determine who should make the decisions instead, right?
Should there be a default?
Um, I it makes it depends. I give you the consulting answer. It's sometimes it's good to have a default because these situations get uncomfortable, and because the situations get uncomfortable, people don't like to think about and have a discussion on who should take over. So having a default is easier. The best way to handle it though would be the team looks at what are you working on at that point and what type of decisions are going to come up, and therefore who should make it. And the reason I'm saying that is if you think about a situation in which, say you're doing a project and it's mostly database work, right? Well, maybe the person, there's one person who's your DBA who usually makes the decisions in that area and they're out. And so the default may have been the front end guy because most times the work is front end. But in this particular instance, you're working on stuff with the database. So maybe the next most knowledgeable person about databases should be the person that makes the decisions about it. Right. So it wouldn't be the default.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
why I think it should be situational.
Uh-huh. I hear that. Okay, so basically if you know you're going to be out, you should designate a replacement, and if not, okay, but like yeah, so here like let's take this case. This case like we didn't even know what we were doing. Like we didn't even know what was like meaning like yeah, it's all good and fine to say, "Oh, well, you know that the next work is like database work."
Right.
What if you don't know what the next work is? Like, what if you've like so slacked off in backlog refinement in the that yeah, you don't even have like the or whatever, or you weren't given a direct whatever the reason is that you're behind, you don't have a bunch of stuff to whatever to
hit a pull from.
to pull from, like, so you don't know what it is. You don't know what special, like, like right now, like we don't even know what the next like there's a lot of things I think should be being done, but we don't know what the next priorities are.
Yeah. So I got to answer this two ways. I got to give you two answers. The first answer is never let it get that bad. And as soon as you notice it, the first thing you should do is do a backlog refinement session. I think sometimes teams are so big on figuring out how to build things faster that they forget that up to 10% of the time of the sprint
Hmm.
can be spent preparing the backlog for the feature. And you need that, you need the planning
Wait,
time.
one
You need
second.
to
No,
actually
one second. Lisa's not coming. Yeah.
do the yeah, you need that plenty of time. So but if you do get in that situation, I think that the next best thing you could do is immediately go ahead and schedule backlog refinement. I think sometimes people think about backlog refinement as taken away from actually doing implementation, but there's
But if you
if
have
you
no
don't do
idea
it,
what you're doing, then you're not implementing anything anyway. So
you're gonna implement the
this is
wrong thing.
this is a
And
perfect time to do it.
well, and not only that, normally what happens is that if I don't have enough stories groomed and ready, then in my sprint planning, I gotta try to hurry up and do it. But people don't like to do the sprint planning and take a lot of time to do it. So instead of taking the time, I'm gonna hurry up, do it as short a period of time as possible, and I'm gonna make lots of assumptions. So all the things that should surface when you have plenty of time will not surface because you're trying to hurry up and get through it. You're gonna make assumptions, but again, people have different assumptions. And when people have different assumptions, you don't have alignment as a team on what you're building. Chances are someone's going to build it. It won't be in the right way, and you'll have to redo it. So it'll take more time in the end doing that rework than it would have been if you had properly done the grooming and planned it in advance. And some people kind of golf at that, and they'll because they're like, hey, well, we're doing agile, so shouldn't shouldn't we be able to not do big, quote unquote, big bang planning up front? And the thing is, when you go agile, it doesn't mean you don't do planning. In fact, you do more planning in an agile environment than you would in a waterfall or traditional approach. The thing is, it's strategic planning. So I do more planning on the things that I'm going to work on right now than I do on the things that are far in advance. But you need the planning time or you're going to rework things. There's no way around it.
Hmm.
So my advice is as soon as you recognize you're in that position where you don't have enough items in the backlog, and again, my kind of standard answer for how much is that is at least 2 sprints worth of work. And that way, if you double your productivity, you don't run out of things. If you don't have
Yeah,
that much,
that's gonna happen.
now it's happened. Actually, I mean, on our project when we switched to using Power BI and had 2 teams, we doubled our productivity, right, in a couple sprints. So
Oh, oh yeah.
and
I mean,
actually we
we
ran
had
into this problem. We ran out of backlog
yeah,
because
but
we didn't
yeah,
believe it was going to
okay,
happen, so we didn't prepare.
okay. I hear what you're saying. I mean, like I don't like yeah, like it's like yes, it's like my my old friend used to say, it's hard to fall out of bed when you're sleeping on the floor. Uh, like, yeah, okay, like, I guess it's true that you could be like so doing things so backwards that like just hiring someone, a competent team and like, setting up things properly could be yeah, that could make a big difference. But yeah, generally speaking, like yeah.
Yeah, it
If you're
it doesn't
doubling your
happen every week.
productivity, it means that you were doing something ridiculous before.
No, no, I would disagree. I think that um wasn't that you were doing something ridiculous. Again, most times the only reason you choose agile is because you're doing something that you've never done before. And so you get more knowledge, and as you learn and get more experience, you find out that some of the underlying assumptions you were using before just aren't true. And you should do things a different way. So you can just make improvements. Like you know, I guess talking about the using the a tool like Power BI was a it's kind of a bad example because I did kind of tell us that we could do that before. But we made a different decision. But I mean, if I switch it to something else, um, oh, like the API, when you found that that tool to speed up development in the API, that was
Mhm.
something that we none of us knew about. I didn't know about it, and I've been using Python for a while. Come to find out, you just found this tool that really worked, and it improved our productivity with the API. Um, that kind of stuff can just happen, and can just double your productivity. It didn't mean we were doing bad before, right? It's just innovation that makes things better.
Okay, well, I'll take it. Uh,
Yeah, I give credit where credit is due. That was you had inspired genius at the moment, right? And you found that tool.
uh,
Um, hey, I didn't know about it.
uh, yeah, there. I'm finding there are like a lot of tools that we're not using, but
Yeah,
like part of it is like the stack we're using, where like yeah, we're using a lot of Python, which is like open source, like kind of like some of the like you'll see like things where like you'll have like a really like there's like a couple of like I only use tools from like a couple of places, right? Like
right.
either like WorkZoog or like Clicks Palette or like the Palettes project or like the standard library, or it had to be like super what's it called uh well known, because like yeah, there's just so much. It's like npm, and then we use javascript, right? Where there's
Right.
just so much garbage on npm that like so yeah. um that's
But yeah.
so like the tooling is not great. That's the problem with it.
Well, so I'll say this before we wrap up. Like I when I was a baby programmer, I was introduced to pair programming, and I thought that pair programming was the dumbest idea. I'm like, wait, you got two developers that could be developing, and you get twice the productivity, and you're telling me that having them work together on the same thing is going to be more productive? And then people gave me explanations as to why it would be more productive. That you're making different design choices, and sometimes those design choices being made will, because it's a better design and we catch errors, will be more productive if you catch them faster. And I heard that, and it was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, 'cause I do see errors occurring and everything, but I don't know if it's going to be twice as productive still, right? Maybe I won't lose as much as I thought. It won't be half as productive, but I still can buy twice as productive. And so I started really noodling on this and I did a lot of research and I finally found out, what the real benefit was of pair programming. And the real benefit, why it really works, is that we, when we look at solutions to how to solve problems, we have biases. We're biased towards what we use in the past, even though there could possibly be better methods out there. Again, there are being tools developed every day that other developers run into problems and have solved. But as people, we have a tendency to think that, or want to believe that we're doing things the best way. And if you if you want to believe that you're doing things the best way, you're not gonna search for a tool that makes things easier, right?
Uh-huh.
And the the reason that I brought up pair programming and thought about this is because the real benefit of pair programming is that you as a developer, you have a certain set of biases, and hopefully, if you pair with somebody else, they don't have the same bias. So when you're doing making decisions together, they'll catch the biased decisions you're making, and you can avoid making those bad decisions, right? If you guys talk about it, and that's what it is for like the
So
tools.
I've only done it a little bit.
Hmm.
I could see two big problems with it. One is that most people don't. I feel like most people don't think they're doing things the best way possible. They just think they're doing it better than you.
Oh, that's funny. uh, Again, I tend to give people a little bit more credit than you do. I, I think people generally, I think people generally want to do a good job, and they want to do, what they think is best. I just think
Well,
that.
take me for example. Like, do I think I do things the best way possible? I know I don't do the best things the best way possible. But if you give me any specific person and you say, "Well, do you do things better than him?" Uh, likely I'm gonna say yes. Like I know, I know my own biases. Like that's I'm likely gonna say yeah. I mean, so I won't say everything, but if you say anything and anything specific, I probably say yes.
Well, you know what? This might be a good discussion for our next episode. So yeah, why don't we end these things here? Maybe next episode we discuss more about the the pair programming. What are the benefits, cons, and is it worth it? And
Okay,
then
but
pick another
I said
topic.
I had two problems. I'm just gonna tell you my other problem, and then
Oh yeah, all right. What was the other one?
the other one is like if you go to like a hackathon and like find a random guy, like maybe, but like a lot of times you worked with these people long enough that you do have the same biases.
That is true. And yeah, um, there's a technique for overcoming that too. So maybe
Does it involve judo?
actually it involves negotiation jujitsu, which is
Uh,
close.
okay, fine, all right. So let's
Teaser for next episode because you're all wondering what the heck is negotiation jujitsu.
I mean, it seems like it's I feel like I could guess, but I'll guess next time.
That's right. The next
Okay.
episode, the
Yes.
cliffhanger.
Tune
Dun,
in
dun,
next
dun, dun.
time for
We need
pair
some soap opera
programming. And then yes. Listen, eventually at one point we're gonna edit it. We'll have all the sound effects and maybe we'll get some sponsors and put some ads in.
That's right.
Okay.
Brought to you by Kellogg.
Uh Kellogg, yeah, that's like I mean, listen, reach for the stars, man. If Kellogg wants to sponsor us, I will have a raisin bran in the background.